There's laughter all around you that you've never heard. High-pitched giggles filling spaces you walk through every day, existing just beyond human hearing. Rats are laughing, and we had no idea until scientists found a way to listen. Tonight, we're exploring the hidden world of rats, and what we've discovered will change how you see these misunderstood creatures forever. These small animals share 90% of our diseases, making them our closest allies in medical research. But that's just the beginning of their story. If you enjoy these quiet journeys into the wonder of science, take a moment to like and subscribe so you don't miss tomorrow's exploration. And leave a comment telling us where you're watching from and what time it is there. We love knowing where our community gathers from around the world. Now, get comfortable, settle into your favorite position. Let's discover something extraordinary together. The laughter of rats exists in a frequency humans cannot detect. It sits above our hearing range, in the ultrasonic realm where only special equipment can pick it up. Scientists stumbled upon this discovery almost by accident. They were studying rat behavior, monitoring brain activity, when they noticed something unexpected. Every time young rats played together, chasing and wrestling the way all young creatures do, the equipment registered high-pitched vocalizations, patterns of sound, repeating, consistent. At first, researchers thought it might be stress calls, but the context was wrong. These rats weren't afraid. They were having fun. The sounds appeared during play, during gentle tickling by researchers, during moments of clear enjoyment. The pattern matched perfectly with moments of happiness. So, scientists did something clever. They tickled the rats. Gently, the way you might play with a puppy, they tickled the rats' bellies and watched what happened. The ultrasonic vocalizations intensified. The rats came back for more. They sought out the researchers' hands. All the behaviors matched what we'd see in any creature experiencing joy. The laughter happens at around 50 kilohertz, far above the 20 kilohertz ceiling of human hearing. To make it audible, researchers had to slow down the recordings. When they did, they heard it, a sound unmistakably like giggling. Light, quick bursts of vocalization that corresponded perfectly with playful moments. Young rats laugh more than old rats, just like human children laugh more freely than adults. Rats laugh more when playing with friends they know well, showing the laughter serves a social purpose. It communicates safety, joy, and connection. The same reasons humans laugh. Some rats are more giggly than others. Personality matters. The rats who laughed most during play also showed less anxiety in new situations, suggesting that a sense of humor, or at least a capacity for joy, correlates with resilience and confidence, even in creatures as small as rats. This laughter isn't a simple reflex. It's complex communication. It strengthens social bonds. It signals that this moment is safe, that this interaction is positive, that life right now is good. In the ultrasonic frequencies we cannot hear, rats are telling each other something beautiful. They're saying they're happy. And somehow, knowing that tiny creatures experience such pure joy makes the world feel a little less harsh. These animals we've feared and dismissed have emotional lives richer than we imagined. They play, they bond, they laugh together in frequencies just beyond our perception, filling the world with happiness we never knew existed. But laughter's just the beginning. Rats feel something even deeper, something that changes everything we thought we knew about these small creatures. They have empathy. In a laboratory at the University of Chicago, researchers designed an experiment that would reveal the emotional life of rats in ways no one expected. They placed a rat in a comfortable cage with plenty of food. Nearby, they put another rat trapped in a small restrainer, unable to move, clearly distressed. The question was simple. What would the free rat do? The free rat could have ignored the trapped one. It had food, comfort, safety. But instead, it did something remarkable. It worked to free its companion. The rat circled the restrainer, pushed at it, tried different approaches. It took effort. It took time. But the free rat persisted until it figured out how to open the restrainer and let its friend out. Then researchers made the experiment harder. They gave the free rat a choice. On one side, a trapped companion. On the other side, chocolate chips. Rats love chocolate. Given the option, they'll almost always choose it. But in this experiment, most rats freed their trapped friend first, then shared the chocolate with them. Think about that. A rat chose helping over eating. It delayed its own reward to end another's suffering. That's not instinct. That's empathy. The researchers noticed something else. Female rats were faster at freeing trapped companions than males. They showed less hesitation, more immediate action, and rats who had previously been trapped themselves freed others faster, suggesting they remembered their own distress and acted quickly to prevent it in others. This wasn't a one-time result. The experiment was repeated with different rats, different setups, different conditions. The pattern held. Rats consistently chose to help trapped companions, even when it cost them something, even when helping was difficult. Scientists measured stress hormones in the free rats while their companions were trapped. The levels were elevated. The free rats were experiencing distress by witnessing another rat's distress. They weren't just aware of the problem, they felt it. The trapped rat's suffering became their suffering. And when they freed their companion, their own stress hormones dropped. Relief. The free rat felt better because the other rat was safe. That's the biological signature of empathy. Your well-being affects mine. Your pain becomes my pain. Your freedom becomes my relief. Rats also show this empathy in other ways. They'll stop pressing a lever that gives them food if they learn that pressing it shocks another rat. They'd rather go hungry than cause pain. In social groups, rats comfort each other after stressful experiences, grooming and staying close to distressed companions. Young rats learn empathy from their mothers. Pups raised by more nurturing mothers show more helping behavior as adults. The capacity for empathy grows through experience, through being cared for, through watching others show kindness. This matters because it reveals something fundamental. Empathy isn't unique to humans or even to primates. It exists in creatures we've dismissed as simple or dirty or beneath our concern. A rat will sacrifice chocolate to free a friend. A rat will work hard to end another's suffering. A rat remembers being trapped and acts quickly to prevent that feeling in others. In their small bodies exists the same moral circuitry that we consider the foundation of human goodness. The ability to recognize suffering, to care about it, and to act despite personal cost. Rats have been showing us compassion all along. We just weren't paying attention. Empathy requires memory. A rat that remembers being trapped helps others faster. Which brings us to something fascinating. Rats have extraordinary memories, far sharper than most people realize. A rat can memorize a complex maze after running it just once. The paths, the turns, the dead ends, all stored perfectly. Days later, that same rat will navigate the maze without hesitation, remembering every choice it made before. But this isn't simple memorization. Rats understand the layout conceptually. If you change the maze slightly, they adapt, using their memory of the general structure to find new solutions. Their hippocampus, the brain region that handles spatial memory, is remarkably similar to ours. When scientists study how human memory works, they often study rats first because the mechanisms are so alike. The same neurons fire in similar patterns. The same chemical signals strengthen or weaken memories. A rat remembering a maze uses the same biological process you use remembering how to get home. But rats remember more than spaces. They remember individuals. Put a rat in a cage with 10 other rats for a few hours. Then separate them for weeks. When you reunite them, the rat will recognize every individual it met before. It knows who was friendly, who was aggressive, who shared food, who played. Each relationship is catalogued and remembered. Rats also remember kindness. In experiments where certain researchers handled rats gently while others were rough, the rats learned to recognize individual humans. They'd approach the gentle handlers willingly and avoid the rough ones, even if those researchers changed their lab coats or altered their appearance. The rats remembered faces, voices, the feeling of being treated well or poorly. Time doesn't erase these memories easily. Rats have shown recognition of other rats after months of separation. They've demonstrated memory of learned tasks after nearly a year without practice. The information stays stored, accessible, ready to be recalled when needed. What's remarkable is how rats use memory to make decisions. They don't just recall the past, they apply it. A rat that found food in a specific location will check that location first in the future. A rat that encountered danger somewhere will avoid that place. Every experience updates their understanding of the world, building a constantly refined mental map of what's safe, what's rewarding, what's worth remembering. Scientists discovered that rats replay memories while they sleep. During rest periods, the same neural patterns that fired while learning a maze fire again, but faster, as if the brain is reviewing the lesson. The rat's mind literally practices the route while sleeping, strengthening the memory, making it more permanent. Dreams serving a purpose. Consolidation of experience into knowledge. And rats remember emotionally significant events more strongly than neutral ones. A location where something frightening happened gets remembered in vivid detail. A place where something wonderful occurred becomes a strong positive memory. The emotional weight determines memory strength, just like in humans. We remember our best and worst days more clearly than average ones. So do rats. This memory capability explains much of their success as a species. Rats thrive in changing environments because they learn and remember. They adapt because they don't forget. Every challenge faced becomes information stored. Every solution found becomes a tool for the future. When a rat looks at you, it's not just seeing a person. It's accessing memories of every interaction you've had, building a relationship across time, remembering your kindness or your cruelty, carrying that knowledge forward into every future encounter. You're not a stranger, you're a remembered presence in their world. Those memories, replaying during sleep, reveal something even more mysterious. Rats dream, and we can prove it. Scientists at MIT placed electrodes in the hippocampus of rats, monitoring brain activity while the rats learned to run a complex maze. Each turn, each decision, each path created a unique pattern of neural firing, a signature that researchers could record and recognize. Then they watched what happened when the rats fell asleep. The same patterns appeared again, not randomly, not in fragments. The rats' brains replayed the entire maze route in the exact same sequence they'd run it while awake. The neural firing matched so precisely that researchers could tell which part of the maze the rat was dreaming about at any given moment. They could track the rat's dream journey step by step. This happens during REM sleep, the same sleep stage where humans dream most vividly. The rat's eyes move under closed lids. Their whiskers twitch. Sometimes, their paws make small running motions, as if navigating the dream maze with their body as well as their mind. But rats don't only dream about mazes. They dream about their daily experiences, whatever those might be. Rats living in enriched environments with toys and tunnels show more complex dream patterns than rats in bare cages. More experiences mean more content to dream about. Richer lives create richer dreams. The dreams serve a function. Rats who are prevented from entering REM sleep struggle to remember what they learned the previous day. The dreaming process isn't just replay, it's consolidation. The brain takes the day's experiences and integrates them into long-term memory. Without dreams, learning becomes much harder. Young rats dream more than adults. Their brains process more information during sleep, building the neural pathways they'll use throughout life. An adolescent rat's brain is constantly reorganizing, and dreams are part of that construction process. Researchers noticed that rats dream most intensely about challenging experiences. A difficult maze gets replayed more often than an easy one. A stressful situation appears in dreams repeatedly, as if the brain is working through the problem, searching for better solutions. Dreams become a kind of practice space where the mind explores possibilities without physical risk. When rats dream about social interactions, their brain activity shows they're processing relationships, hierarchies, conflicts. The social complexity of their waking life continues in sleep, relationships being rehearsed and understood at a deeper level. Scientists even found that rats can learn during dreams. A rat that struggled with a maze during the day sometimes performs better the next morning, as if the dream practice improved their skill. The boundary between sleeping and waking learning becomes blurred. What are they experiencing in these dreams? We can't know their subjective reality, but the brain patterns suggest something rich, not just mechanical replay, but an experience with emotional content. Fear responses activate during dreams about threats. Reward centers light up during dreams about food or play. The dreams have feeling attached to them. Every night, in cages and nests across the world, rats close their eyes and their minds go somewhere else. They run mazes that exist only in memory. They interact with companions who aren't physically present. They navigate a world constructed entirely by their sleeping brains. We share this with them. The mystery of where consciousness goes during sleep. The strange theater of dreams, where we process our days, consolidate our memories, and somehow wake up, changed by journeys we took without moving. Rats dream alongside us, their small minds creating private worlds we'll never see but can now prove exist. When rats wake from their dreams, they begin a ritual. They groom themselves with an intensity that borders on obsession, spending up to half their waking hours in this careful maintenance. A rat's grooming follows a precise sequence. It starts with the paws, licking them until they're wet, then washing the face in circular motions. Then the head, the ears, down the body to the tail. The pattern never varies. Every rat follows the same choreography, as if the routine is hardwired into their nature. But this isn't just about cleanliness. Grooming is how rats regulate their emotions. When stressed, they groom more. When content, they groom slowly, almost meditatively. The repetitive motion calms them, similar to how humans might take deep breaths or fidget with their hands. It's a coping mechanism built into their behavior. Watch rats in a group and you'll see something else. They groom each other. One rat approaches another and begins cleaning its companion's fur, focusing on areas the other rat can't reach easily. The head, behind the ears, the back of the neck. This social grooming isn't about hygiene, it's about bonding. Rats who groom each other more frequently show stronger social bonds. They're more likely to share food, sleep close together, and help each other in stressful situations. The time spent grooming builds trust. Each stroke of the tongue or paw is a form of communication that says, "I care about you. You're part of my group. You're safe with me." Scientists studying rat colonies noticed that dominant rats receive more grooming than they give. Subordinate rats groom leaders as a form of social currency, maintaining their position in the hierarchy through this service. But interestingly, the dominant rats who do groom others back tend to have more stable leadership. Reciprocity matters even in rat society. Mother rats groom their pups constantly. This isn't optional. Pups who receive less grooming show higher stress levels as adults. They're more anxious, less social, less resilient. The mother's tongue stroking their fur isn't just cleaning them. It's programming their stress response system, teaching their bodies how to regulate emotion. The grooming also serves a practical health function. Rats can detect parasites, injuries, or skin problems on themselves and others through grooming. They'll focus extra attention on any abnormality, sometimes preventing infections before they start. The colony stays healthier because every member acts as a medical inspector for the others. In laboratory settings, researchers use grooming frequency as a measure of rat well-being. Rats who stop grooming themselves are showing signs of severe depression or illness. The absence of this fundamental behavior signals that something is deeply wrong. Pet rats, will even try to groom their human owners, licking fingers or hands with the same careful attention they'd give another rat. It's an extension of their social bonding, treating humans as members of their group worthy of care and connection. The ritual continues throughout their lives. Morning grooming after waking, grooming after eating, grooming before sleep, social grooming sessions that can last 20 minutes or more. It's how rats maintain themselves, calm themselves, connect with others, and create the structure that holds their social world together. In these small, repetitive acts exists something profound. The understanding that care takes time, that relationships require maintenance, that comfort comes from attention to detail. Rats teach us that sometimes the most important things we do are the quietest, most consistent rituals of daily life. While grooming, a rat pays special attention to its whiskers, and for good reason. Those whiskers are mapping the entire world around them in ways we're only beginning to understand. A rat has about 30 whiskers on each side of its face, arranged in rows. Each whisker connects to a dedicated section of the brain. When a whisker touches something, that specific brain region activates, creating a neural map of the object's location, texture, and shape. But rats don't wait for objects to touch their whiskers. They actively sweep them back and forth, whisking at speeds up to 15 times per second. This constant motion creates a three-dimensional map of space, similar to how we use our eyes to scan a room. Except rats do it in complete darkness. The whiskers detect more than solid objects. They sense air currents. When a rat runs through a tunnel, its whiskers feel the way air flows around corners, predicting what's ahead before seeing it. They can tell if a gap is wide enough to fit through by measuring air pressure changes. The world becomes readable through invisible flows and pressures. Each whisker is different. The ones near the nose are shorter and thicker, good for detecting fine details up close. The longer whiskers extending farther from the face sense objects at a distance. Together, they create overlapping fields of detection, ensuring nothing nearby goes unnoticed. Scientists discovered that rats adjust their whisking pattern based on what they're doing. When exploring something new, they whisk faster and with wider sweeps. When examining a familiar object, the whisking slows and becomes more focused. The brain controls whisker movement with the same precision we use to control our fingers. The whiskers also communicate texture with incredible accuracy. A rat can tell the difference between sandpaper grits that vary by tiny amounts. They can distinguish shapes, recognizing objects by touch alone. In experiments, rats learn to identify letters of the alphabet using only their whiskers, reading with their faces what we read with our eyes. This sensing happens at remarkable speed. The brain processes whisker information in milliseconds. A rat running full speed through a dark tunnel is constantly updating its understanding of the space, making split-second decisions based on whisker input. They navigate complexity without slowing down. When a rat loses its whiskers, it becomes disoriented. The world turns uncertain. Even in well-lit environments, rats without whiskers move cautiously, no longer confident in their spatial understanding. The whiskers aren't backup sensors. They're primary navigation tools. Baby rats are born with whiskers before their eyes open. For the first 2 weeks of life, whiskers are their only way to understand space, to find their mother, to know where siblings are. The whisking behavior appears instinctively. No teaching required. Rats even use whiskers socially. When two rats greet each other, they touch whiskers, exchanging information through contact. Dominant rats sometimes trim the whiskers of subordinates during aggressive encounters, temporarily reducing their rivals' sensory capabilities. The human equivalent would be if we navigated primarily through thousands of sensitive hairs on our face, each one reporting detailed information to dedicated brain regions, all working together to construct reality from touch and air movement. We'd experience space entirely differently. For rats, darkness isn't an obstacle. It's just another environment their whiskers are designed to read. They move through it with confidence, mapping every surface, every gap, every object through these remarkable sensors, seeing the world in a way we can barely imagine. Whiskers tell rats about their environment, but another sense guides one of their most important survival behaviors. Their sense of taste is extraordinarily refined, and it has to be, because rats face a biological limitation that makes eating dangerous. Rats cannot vomit. Their digestive system lacks the muscular structure needed to reverse food once swallowed. If they eat something poisonous, they can't expel it. This means every meal carries potential risk. So, rats evolved to be extremely cautious eaters. When encountering new food, a rat takes only a tiny nibble. Then it waits, sometimes for hours. If it feels sick, it never eats that food again. If it feels fine, it gradually increases the amount consumed over several meals. This behavior is called neophobia, the fear of new things. But it's more sophisticated than simple fear. Rats are constantly evaluating risk versus reward, using taste and bodily response as their guide. Their taste buds detect flavors humans can't perceive. Rats can taste the difference between water sources that seem identical to us. They detect contamination at concentrations far below what we'd notice. Their tongues report information about freshness, chemical composition, and safety with remarkable precision. But here's where it becomes truly interesting. Rats share food information socially. When one rat discovers safe food, other rats notice what it's eating and try the same thing. They trust the judgment of colony members who've already tested something new. Researchers discovered this through experiments. They fed one rat a flavored food, then returned it to the colony. Other rats smelled the food on its breath and whiskers. Soon, the entire group preferred that flavor, even though most had never tasted it themselves. The first rat essentially vouched for the food's safety. This social learning prevents the whole colony from being poisoned. Only one individual takes the initial risk. If that rat survives and seems healthy, the others benefit from its experience. If it gets sick, they learn to avoid that food without experiencing the consequences themselves. Mother rats teach their pups which foods are safe by eating in front of them. Pups prefer flavors they smell on their mother's breath during nursing. The education begins before they can eat solid food, building a foundation of food preferences based on maternal experience. Rats also remember where they found good food. They'll return to successful locations repeatedly, checking those spots first when hungry. But they don't become rigid. If a food source disappears or becomes contaminated, they quickly adapt and search elsewhere. Their caution extends to drinking. Rats prefer fresh water and can detect staleness or contamination easily. In the wild, they'll travel significant distances for clean water rather than drink from questionable sources nearby. This careful approach to eating explains why rats are so difficult to poison. They take small test doses first. They learn from sick colony members. They remember dangerous foods for years. Their survival depends on this cautious intelligence. Yet, when food proves safe, rats enjoy it. They have preferences, showing excitement for certain flavors. They'll work harder for foods they find especially rewarding. Taste brings them pleasure, not just nutrition. The inability to vomit could have been a fatal weakness. Instead, it drove the evolution of sophisticated taste discrimination, social learning, and careful decision-making. Rats turned vulnerability into a strength, developing systems that keep them safer than simple vomiting ever could. Survival requires more than careful eating. Rats face another constant challenge that most people never consider. They need to control their body temperature in a world of extreme variations, and they do it with one of their most misunderstood features. A rat's tail isn't just for balance. It's a sophisticated temperature regulation system, possibly the most elegant cooling and heating mechanism in the mammal world. The tail contains almost no fur, just thin skin covering a network of blood vessels. These vessels can expand or contract on demand, controlled by the rat's nervous system with precision. When a rat gets too hot, the vessels expand. Blood flows into the tail, releases heat through the skin, and returns to the body cooler. The tail becomes a radiator. This happens fast. A rat's body temperature can drop several degrees within minutes just by sending blood through its tail. In hot environments, you can literally see the tail turn pink as blood vessels dilate and heat escapes. When cold, the opposite occurs. Blood vessels in the tail constrict, reducing blood flow to nearly nothing. This prevents heat loss through the exposed skin. The tail can become noticeably paler as blood retreats to the core body, preserving warmth where it matters most. The system is automatic, but also responsive to behavior. A rat can choose to press its tail against cool surfaces to dump heat faster, or curl it close to the body to retain warmth. They use the tail strategically, like we might remove or add a jacket. Scientists measured this process in laboratory conditions. Rats placed in warm environments increased tail blood flow by up to 500%. In cold environments, blood flow dropped to barely measurable levels. The difference in heat transfer was dramatic, sometimes meaning the difference between survival and heat stroke. Baby rats can't regulate temperature well at birth. Their tails are small and their nervous systems immature. Mother rats compensate by keeping pups close, using their own body heat to maintain the nest temperature. As pups grow, their tails develop, and temperature control becomes their own responsibility. The tail's length matters. Longer tails provide more surface area for heat exchange, making them more effective radiators. Rats living in hot climates tend to have proportionally longer tails than those in cold regions, an evolutionary adaptation to their environment. But the tail does more than regulate temperature. It contains sensors that detect heat and cold, feeding information to the brain about environmental conditions. The rat knows what temperature its surroundings are, partly through sensory data from its tail. In social situations, rats sometimes intertwine tails while resting, creating shared warmth. The contact provides comfort and practical temperature benefits, especially for younger or smaller rats who struggle more with heat retention. Damage to the tail seriously compromises a rat's survival. Without it, they can overheat in warm weather or lose dangerous amounts of body heat in cold conditions. The tail isn't cosmetic or optional, it's essential equipment. Humans need clothing, shelter, and complex technology to survive temperature extremes. Rats just need their tails. Blood vessels expanding and contracting, skin releasing or retaining heat. A simple biological system, solving a complex problem with elegance. This adaptation let rats colonize nearly every climate on Earth. From freezing warehouses to tropical sewers, their tails adjust, maintaining the stable body temperature their organs require, while the world around them fluctuates wildly. Temperature regulation matters most in one place: the nest. And rats are meticulous about building the perfect one. Given materials, a rat will sort through them with clear preferences. Soft fabrics rank highest, paper strips come next, then twigs, leaves, whatever's available. But texture matters enormously. A rat will choose one type of cloth over another based on softness, showing they don't just want shelter, they want comfort. Watch a rat build a nest, and you'll see careful architecture. They create a bowl shape first, weaving materials together to form walls. Then they add layers, insulating the interior. The entrance gets positioned deliberately, often facing away from drafts. Inside, they create a sleeping chamber, barely large enough for the rat to curl up, minimizing the space they need to heat with body warmth. The process takes hours. Rats make hundreds of trips, carrying single pieces of material, testing placement, adjusting. They'll rebuild sections that don't feel right, showing they're working toward a specific vision of what a proper nest should be. Mother rats build more elaborate nests than males or non-pregnant females. They add extra insulation, create more defined chambers, and obsessively maintain the structure. The nest determines pup survival, so the stakes are higher. In laboratory studies, researchers gave rats different building materials and measured preferences. Rats consistently chose softer over rougher textures, even when the rough material provided better insulation. Comfort outweighed pure functionality. They wanted their nest to feel good, not just work well. Temperature influences building behavior. In cold environments, rats build thicker nests with more layers. In warm conditions, they create airier structures with better ventilation. The design adapts to circumstances. Rats also show individual preferences. Some build tall nests with high walls. Others prefer low, spread-out structures. Given identical materials and conditions, different rats create noticeably different nests, suggesting personality influences construction choices. Social groups sometimes build communal nests, especially in cold weather. Multiple rats contribute materials and huddle together inside, sharing warmth. The cooperation requires coordination, with each rat seemingly understanding the collective goal. Pet rats, given fabric hammocks or soft bedding, will spend significant time arranging and rearranging, trying to achieve maximum coziness. They'll drag material from elsewhere to supplement what's provided. Showing the drive to build extends beyond necessity into genuine desire for comfort. The nest becomes a safe space. Rats groom there, sleep there, retreat there when stressed. They defend it against intrusion. The location and quality of their nest affects their overall well-being measurably. Rats with poor nesting materials show higher stress hormone levels. Interestingly, rats will maintain their nest even when it's not in use. They repair damage, replace soiled material, keep it clean. The nest isn't temporary shelter. It's their home, worthy of ongoing care. This behavior appears instinctive. Young rats with no exposure to adults will still build nests given materials, following the same basic pattern. But refinement improves with experience. Older rats build better nests than young ones. When researchers remove a rat's completed nest, the rat shows visible distress and immediately begins rebuilding. The loss matters emotionally, not just practically. We build homes because we're human. But the impulse to create safe, comfortable space isn't uniquely ours. Rats understand it too. The need for a place that feels right, that provides safety and warmth, that becomes home through careful construction and maintenance. Rats don't just share nests, they need each other in ways that go deeper than practical cooperation. Isolate a rat completely, and you'll witness something heartbreaking. They deteriorate. A solitary rat shows signs of distress within days. They groom less. They eat less. Their activity levels drop. Even in a cage with food, water, and comfortable bedding, a rat alone becomes depressed. The physical needs are met, but something essential is missing. Scientists measuring stress hormones in isolated rats found levels comparable to rats experiencing physical pain. Loneliness hurts them biologically. Their bodies react to social isolation as a threat, flooding their system with stress chemicals that damage health over time. Rats are born into social groups and spend their entire lives in constant contact with others. In natural colonies, a rat is rarely more than a few feet from a companion. They eat together, sleep piled on top of each other, and coordinate their daily rhythms. The presence of others isn't optional comfort, it's fundamental to their well-being. When researchers reunite isolated rats with companions, the change is immediate. The isolated rat becomes animated, engaging in intense social grooming, play, and physical contact. They literally press against other rats, as if compensating for lost touch. The stress hormones drop rapidly. Social groups develop complex structures. Dominant rats lead, but leadership isn't maintained through constant aggression. Successful dominant rats build alliances, share resources strategically, and show restraint. Purely aggressive leaders get challenged and overthrown. Rats recognize dozens of individuals within their colony. They know who's trustworthy, who's aggressive, who's playful. Each relationship is unique. maintained through daily interactions that reinforce bonds or shift dynamics. Play behavior continues into adulthood, unlike many mammals who stop playing after youth. Adult rats wrestle, chase, and engage in games with no apparent purpose except enjoyment and social bonding. The play keeps relationships flexible and cooperative. Communication happens constantly. Beyond the ultrasonic laughter we discussed earlier, rats use body language, scent marking, and physical contact to convey information. A simple nose touch can communicate reassurance. Certain postures signal submission or dominance without conflict. When a rat in the group gets sick or injured, others adjust their behavior. They stay closer to the affected individual, groom them more, sometimes share food directly. The care isn't just maternal instinct. Adult rats help other adults, showing genuine concern for group members' welfare. Rats also experience social contagion of emotions. If one rat shows fear, others become alert, even without seeing the threat themselves. If one rat is relaxed, the group's overall stress level decreases. They regulate each other emotionally. Introducing a new rat to an established group requires careful process. The group needs time to accept the newcomer. Forced integration causes stress and sometimes aggression. But when done gradually, new rats integrate successfully, forming bonds that last. Pet rat owners often notice their rats seem to seek interaction even with humans, treating them as honorary colony members. The rat's need for social connection is so strong it extends across species boundaries. In facilities where rats are kept singly for research, even brief daily handling by humans reduces stress markers. Any social contact helps, though it can't fully replace interaction with other rats. We understand loneliness, the ache of isolation, the need for connection. Rats feel this too, perhaps more intensely than we do. Their biology demands company. Their well-being requires the presence of others who know them, touch them, share space and time with them. Social intelligence is one kind of smart, but rats show another type that surprises researchers constantly. They solve problems that require genuine reasoning, not just instinct or trial and error. Put a rat in front of a puzzle box containing food. Most animals will scratch at it randomly or give up. A rat will study the mechanism. They'll test different approaches systematically, remember what doesn't work, and build on partial successes until they solve it. In one experiment, researchers created a complex challenge. Rats needed to pull a string to release a platform, then push a lever to move food within reach, then pull another string to bring the food close enough to grab. 3 steps, each useless without the others. Rats figured it out. Not immediately, but through a process that looked remarkably like thinking. They'd try one action, notice the result, try combining it with another action. When they discovered the sequence worked, they repeated it reliably. They understood causation. A leads to B, leads to C, leads to reward. What's striking is their flexibility. Change the puzzle, and rats adapt their strategy rather than mindlessly repeating what worked before. They recognize when a previously successful approach no longer applies and search for new solutions. That's not programmed behavior, that's reasoning. Researchers tested whether rats understand abstract concepts like same and different. They showed rats pairs of objects. If both objects matched, pressing one lever gave a reward. If objects differed, pressing another lever gave a reward. The objects changed constantly, so rats couldn't memorize specific examples. They had to grasp the concept itself. Rats learned this. They could look at two completely new objects and correctly identify whether they matched or differed. They'd extracted an abstract rule from experience and applied it to novel situations. That's sophisticated cognitive work. Tool use appears in rats too, though less commonly than in primates. Rats will use objects to reach food, rake items closer, or modify their environment to solve problems. The behavior emerges without training when the situation demands it. Memory plays into their problem solving. Rats remember successful solutions for months. Return them to a puzzle they solved long ago, and they'll often execute the solution immediately, showing they stored not just the memory of success, but the specific method. They also learn from watching others. Put a naive rat with an experienced rat who knows how to solve a puzzle. The naive rat will watch, then attempt the same solution. Social learning accelerates problem solving across the group. Planning ability exists too. In experiments where rats could choose immediate small rewards or wait for larger rewards, some rats learned to wait. They could inhibit immediate impulses in favor of better future outcomes. That requires imagining future states and valuing them appropriately. Rats even show metacognition, awareness of their own knowledge. In tests where rats could choose between easy and hard problems, with the option to skip hard ones, rats learned to skip challenges they couldn't solve. They knew what they didn't know and made strategic decisions based on that self-awareness. These aren't simple stimulus response machines. They're thinking creatures working through problems with strategy, memory, and understanding. Their brains, though small, contain the neural architecture necessary for reasoning. Watching a rat solve a novel puzzle, you see the gears turning, the pauses where they seem to consider options, the sudden shifts in approach when inspiration hits, the satisfaction visible when the solution clicks into place. Intelligence at work in a tiny package. Intelligence shapes how rats experience the world. And one surprising discovery reveals they experience something we consider uniquely human. They respond to music with preferences that mirror our own. Scientists played different types of music for rats and measured their responses. Not just behavior, but physiological changes. Heart rate, stress hormones, movement patterns. The data showed something unexpected. Rats have musical tastes. Mozart calmed them. When classical music played, rats showed lower stress hormones and spent more time in relaxed postures. Their heart rates decreased. They groomed themselves in the slow, meditative way that signals contentment. The music created measurable peace. Heavy metal had the opposite effect. Loud, aggressive music increased stress markers. Rats became more alert, more active, showed signs of agitation. They avoided areas where heavy metal played if given a choice. The effect wasn't about volume alone. Researchers controlled for that, playing classical and metal at equal decibel levels. The difference was the music itself. The complexity, rhythm, and tonal qualities affected rats differently. jazz produced mixed results. Some rats seemed engaged, others indifferent. The variability suggests individual preferences exist, just like humans don't universally enjoy the same genres. Silence versus music also mattered. Rats in complete silence showed higher baseline stress than rats with gentle background music. Some auditory input seemed preferable to none, as if quiet sounds create a sense of environmental normalcy. Researchers found that music affects rat learning. Rats taught to navigate mazes while Mozart played performed better than rats learning in silence or with heavy metal. The calming music improved cognitive function, helping them remember routes and make fewer errors. Pregnant rats exposed to classical music had pups with different brain development compared to pups from mothers in silent environments. The musical exposure influenced neural growth, suggesting sound shapes developing brains in rats as it does in humans. The frequency ranges matter. Rats hear higher frequencies than humans, so music probably sounds different to them. What we hear as smooth melody might include ultrasonic elements that create additional layers for rats. Their experience of music isn't identical to ours, but the emotional response parallels ours remarkably. Calming music calms rats. Aggressive music agitates them. The connection between sound patterns and emotional state crosses species boundaries. Social context influences musical response too. Rats listening to music alone react differently than rats in groups. The presence of others seems to modulate how music affects them, suggesting the experience has social dimensions. Pet owners who play music for their rats report noticeable preferences. Some rats will position themselves closer to speakers when certain songs play. Others leave the area during particular genres. The responses are individual but consistent. This raises questions about consciousness and aesthetic experience. Do rats enjoy Mozart the way we do? Or is their response purely physiological? Brain chemistry reacting to sound patterns without subjective pleasure. We can't know their internal experience. But the behavioral evidence suggests music matters to them. It changes their emotional state, affects their health, influences their learning. Whether they experience beauty the way we do remains mysterious, but they clearly experience something. Sound isn't just information for rats, it's atmosphere. Mozart creates one kind of world, heavy metal another. Rats navigate these sonic environments with clear preferences, seeking sounds that calm them and avoiding those that stress them, living in a world where music means something beyond noise. The rats experiencing Mozart in laboratories aren't just subjects of curiosity. They're contributing to something larger, something that carries both wonder and weight. Rats are saving human lives in ways most people never realize. 90% of human diseases exist in rats too. Cancer, diabetes, heart disease, neurological disorders. Our biology overlaps so extensively that studying rats reveals truths about human health. This similarity isn't coincidence. It's shared evolutionary history, making itself useful. Every major medical breakthrough in the past century involved rat research at some stage. Insulin treatment for diabetes, chemotherapy, protocols for cancer, organ transplant techniques. blood pressure medications. The list extends into thousands of treatments we now take for granted. Rats helped develop the polio vaccine, saving countless children from paralysis and death. They were essential in understanding how antibiotics work, enabling the treatment of infections that once killed routinely. Modern surgery techniques were refined through rat studies, making operations safer and more effective. The reason rats work so well for research goes beyond biological similarity. They reproduce quickly, allowing scientists to study multiple generations and track how diseases progress or treatments affect long-term health. Their short lifespans mean researchers can observe entire life cycles, from youth to old age, within a few years. Rat brains, despite being much smaller than human brains, have similar structures and neurotransmitter systems. Studying how rat brains respond to injury, disease, or treatment provides insights that translate to human neurology. Treatments for Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's, depression, and addiction all emerged partly from rat research. Cancer studies rely heavily on rats. Researchers can study how tumors form, grow, and spread. They test potential treatments, observe side effects, refine dosages. The rats that participate in this research contribute directly to the therapies that extend human lives. But this relationship carries ethical complexity we can't ignore. These intelligent, social, empathetic creatures we've been exploring experience stress, pain, and fear. They have preferences, memories, relationships. Using them for research means acknowledging we're causing suffering to creatures capable of it. Modern research ethics demand minimizing that suffering. Anesthesia for painful procedures, environmental enrichment in cages, social housing when possible, painkillers during recovery. The standards have improved dramatically, though whether they're sufficient remains debated. Some researchers develop genuine affection for their rats, recognizing the individuals even while using them for experiments. The contradiction creates emotional difficulty. Caring for creatures you're also harming creates a moral tension without easy resolution. Alternatives are advancing. Computer models, cell cultures, human tissue samples. Each year, fewer rats are needed as technology improves. But currently, certain questions can only be answered through living systems, and rats remain the most practical choice. The debt is real. Those medications in your cabinet probably exist because rats participated in their development. The surgical techniques that might save your life were practiced first on rats. The understanding of how your body works comes partly from studying theirs. We can honor that contribution through gratitude and continued effort to reduce suffering. Better research methods, more humane housing, recognition that these aren't disposable tools, but living creatures making involuntary sacrifices. The rats in laboratories right now are participating in research that might cure diseases, extend lives, reduce suffering for millions of humans. Their contribution is profound. So is the ethical responsibility we carry for making that contribution as painless as possible and working toward the day when alternatives make animal research unnecessary. Understanding rat biology reveals constant adaptations, and one of the most remarkable exists in their mouths. A rat's teeth never stop growing. From birth until death, the incisors lengthen continuously at a rate that seems impossible. The teeth grow about 5 inches per year. That's nearly half an inch every month. Without constant wear, a rat's teeth would curve backward into its skull within months, making eating impossible and causing death by starvation. So rats gnaw, constantly. They chew wood, plastic, metal, concrete, anything hard enough to wear down the enamel. This isn't recreational, it's survival. The gnawing keeps their teeth at a functional length through continuous erosion. The incisors are specially designed for this. The front surface is covered in hard enamel, while the back surface is softer dentine. When rats chew, the softer back wears faster than the harder front, creating a sharp, chisel-like edge. The teeth self-sharpen through use. This design is ingenious. The continuously growing tooth compensates for wear. The differential hardness maintains sharpness. The system is self-regulating, requiring no external intervention. As long as the rat chews hard materials regularly, the teeth stay the perfect length and shape. But the balance is delicate. If a rat can't gnaw enough, the teeth overgrow. If they gnaw too much on overly abrasive materials, they can wear teeth down faster than growth replaces them. The rate of growth and rate of wear must match. Wild rats naturally encounter enough hard materials to maintain this balance. Wood, nuts, seeds, tough plant materials. Urban rats gnaw concrete, wiring, pipes. The city provides endless hard surfaces that keep their teeth in check. Pet rats sometimes face problems. Soft food and lack of proper chewing materials can lead to overgrowth. Owners must provide wooden blocks, hard treats, or special chewing toys. Without these, veterinary intervention becomes necessary to trim overgrown teeth. The teeth color tells a story too. Healthy rat incisors are yellow-orange, not white. The color comes from iron deposits in the enamel, which actually strengthens the teeth. Pale teeth suggest nutritional deficiencies or health problems. Only the 4 front incisors grow continuously. The molars in the back of the mouth grow normally, like human teeth. This makes sense functionally. The incisors handle the heavy gnawing work, while the molars grind food. Different jobs require different designs. Baby rats are born without visible teeth. The incisors emerge within a few days and immediately begin their lifelong growth. By the time a rat is weaned, the gnawing behavior is already established, necessary for survival. The nerve inside the tooth grows along with it, maintaining sensitivity. This means rats feel pressure and pain in their teeth, guiding their gnawing behavior. They avoid materials that hurt and seek ones that provide satisfying resistance. Tooth growth requires significant calcium and other nutrients. A rat's diet must support this continuous production. Malnutrition affects tooth health quickly, as the body prioritizes vital organs over dental maintenance. If one tooth breaks or gets damaged, the opposing tooth can overgrow rapidly since it lacks the resistance to wear it down. This creates urgent problems, as the overgrown tooth can pierce the opposite jaw or prevent the mouth from closing. Evolution gave rats this endless growth to match their lifestyle. Constant gnawing opens food sources other animals can't access. Hard shells, tough coverings, even barriers protecting human food stores. The growing teeth are tools that improve with use, lasting a lifetime because they're constantly renewed. Those continuously growing teeth serve rats well in their preferred hours. The darkness. Because rats are creatures of the night, and their eyes evolved specifically for it. A rat sees better in near darkness than in bright light. Their eyes contain far more rod cells than cone cells. Rods detect light and movement, but not color well. Cones see color, but need brightness to function. Rats traded color vision for superior night sight. In dim conditions, where humans struggle to see anything, rats navigate easily. They detect movement, perceive shapes, avoid obstacles. The world at night isn't blank to them. It's fully visible, just rendered in shades rather than colors. Bright light actually bothers rats. Their pupils can't constrict enough to prevent too much light from entering. In sunlight, they're partially blinded, seeing washed-out images that make navigation difficult. This is why wild rats are almost exclusively nocturnal. Daylight is uncomfortable. Darkness is home. The eyes are positioned on the sides of their head, giving them nearly 360-degree vision. They can see above, beside, and behind simultaneously. The only blind spot is directly in front of their nose, which their whiskers compensate for perfectly. This wide field of view comes at a cost. Rats have limited depth perception. Their eyes see different images with minimal overlap, making it hard to judge distances accurately. They compensate by moving their heads side to side, using motion parallax to gauge how far away objects are. Motion sensitivity is extraordinary. A rat can detect the slightest movement across a large room in near darkness. This helps them spot predators and prey, crucial for survival. Stillness makes you invisible to a rat. Movement makes you obvious. Colors appear muted to rats. They see some color, primarily blues and greens, but reds look gray to them. The world they experience is less vibrant than what humans see, but more detailed in low light. Their eyes also detect ultraviolet light that humans can't see. Urine and certain biological fluids glow under UV. This helps rats follow scent trails visually, adding a layer of perception we entirely lack. They're seeing parts of the spectrum invisible to us. The retina refreshes faster than human retinas, allowing rats to perceive rapid movements we'd miss. A light flickering at frequencies that seem steady to us appears strobing to a rat. Their visual processing handles faster input. Baby rats are born with their eyes closed. They open around 2 weeks old, revealing eyes that immediately begin adapting to darkness. The preference for dim conditions appears innate, not learned. In research settings, rats show stress responses under constant bright lighting. Their natural circadian rhythms depend on periods of darkness. Even domesticated rats maintain strong preferences for shadowy areas over illuminated spaces. Pet rats often create nests in the darkest corners of their enclosures. They emerge during human evening hours when lights dim. The behavior persists across generations of domestic breeding, suggesting it's deeply genetic. Interestingly, albino rats, which lack pigment, have even worse vision in bright light. Their red eyes lack the protective pigmentation that helps normal rats handle moderate brightness. They're even more dependent on darkness for comfortable vision. The eyes reflect light at night, glowing when illuminated. This tapetum lucidum, a reflective layer behind the retina, bounces light back through photoreceptors a second time, enhancing sensitivity further. It's the same adaptation that makes cat eyes shine. Rats own the night. While we sleep, they see clearly, moving through darkness with confidence we couldn't match without technology. The hours we consider difficult are their natural element, when their eyes work best and the world belongs to them. Darkness isn't the only environment where rats excel. Put a rat in water and something unexpected happens. They swim brilliantly, with abilities that rival many aquatic mammals. A rat can tread water for 3 days straight, not swimming toward shore, just staying afloat, keeping its head above the surface through constant small movements. 3 days without rest, without touching ground. The endurance is staggering. Their bodies are naturally buoyant. The ratio of body fat to muscle keeps them floating with minimal effort. Air trapped in their fur adds extra lift. They don't have to work hard to stay at the surface, which explains how they can maintain it for so long. All 4 legs paddle simultaneously in a motion similar to a dog's swimming. The tail acts as a rudder, steering with precision. Rats can swim in straight lines, make tight turns, and even dive underwater when needed. Diving isn't something they do often, but they're capable. Rats can hold their breath for up to 3 minutes, swimming beneath the surface to escape predators or access submerged areas. They open their eyes underwater, using their poor but functional vision to navigate. Wild rats often live near water, sewers, riverbanks, marshy areas. Swimming is a practical skill, not just a survival backup. They cross streams, navigate flooded areas, and access food sources separated by water without hesitation. The swimming ability appears instinctive. Young rats placed in water for the first time immediately begin paddling. Nobody teaches them. The movements are hardwired, ready to activate when needed. Their fur is somewhat water resistant. Not fully waterproof like a beaver's, but resistant enough that skin doesn't get soaked immediately. This gives rats a few minutes in water before becoming thoroughly wet, which helps prevent dangerous heat loss. After swimming, rats perform extensive grooming to dry their fur. Wet fur compromises their temperature regulation, making the grooming urgent rather than casual. They'll spend much longer than usual cleaning themselves after water exposure. In urban environments, rats use swimming to access new areas. They enter buildings through toilet pipes, swimming up through the plumbing. They cross rivers to reach new territories. The water isn't a barrier, it's a pathway. Researchers studying rat swimming noticed they can learn to swim through underwater mazes. Given practice, rats remember routes that require them to dive, navigate turns while holding their breath, and surface at specific locations. The cognitive work happens even while managing the physical demands of swimming. Some rats swim better than others. Individual variation exists, with some showing more confidence and endurance. But even the weakest swimmers can keep themselves alive in water far longer than you'd expect from a land animal. The 3-day treading water limit isn't theoretical. It's been measured in controlled settings. Rats placed in water with no exit, will keep themselves afloat for approximately 72 hours before exhaustion overcomes them. The will to survive pushes them to extraordinary endurance. This adaptation likely evolved because rats live in unpredictable environments. Floods happen, rivers rise. Areas they depend on become temporarily aquatic. Rats who couldn't swim went extinct. Those who could passed on genes that made swimming instinctive and endurance exceptional. Modern rats carry that legacy. Drop them in a pool and they don't panic. They start paddling, find the edge, climb out efficiently. Water is just another element they've mastered, another environment where they refuse to be helpless. Survival abilities pass from one generation to the next through a process that reveals some of the most tender behavior rats display. The way mother rats care for their young shows devotion that rivals any mammal. A mother rat gives birth to 6 to 12 pups after just 3 weeks of pregnancy. The pups arrive tiny, weighing less than an ounce each. They're completely helpless, eyes closed, ears sealed, bodies naked and pink. They can't regulate their own temperature or even digest food without help. For the first 2 weeks, the mother barely leaves them. She lies curled around the litter, keeping them warm with her body heat. Without this contact, the pups would die from cold within hours. Her presence is literally their survival. She nurses them constantly. Rat milk is rich, allowing pups to double their weight in the first week. The mother's body pours resources into milk production, sometimes losing significant weight herself to feed her young. The nutritional demand is enormous, but nursing provides more than food. The act of nursing stimulates the pup's digestion. Mother rats lick their pups' bellies and genital areas, triggering urination and defecation. Without this stimulation, the pups can't eliminate waste. She's not just feeding them, she's making their basic biology function. The licking also programs their stress response. We mentioned this before with grooming, but it's worth understanding deeper. The amount of licking a pup receives in the first weeks literally changes which genes activate in their brain. More licking creates calmer adults with better stress management. Less licking produces more anxious rats. The mother's tongue shapes their personality at a biological level. She's hypervigilant during these early weeks. Any disturbance makes her gather the pups, carrying them one by one to a safer location. She'll move an entire litter if she senses threat, making multiple trips with a pup held gently in her mouth each time. Around day 10, the pup's ears open. They start hearing their mother's movements, her vocalizations. By day 14, their eyes open. The world becomes visible. They begin exploring beyond the nest, though never far from mother initially. She teaches them to eat solid food by bringing it to the nest and eating in front of them. They learn what's safe by watching her choices. The social food learning we discussed earlier starts here, in the nest, with mother as the first teacher. Weaning happens gradually, around 3 to 4 weeks. The mother becomes less available for nursing, encouraging pups to eat more solid food. But she doesn't abandon them abruptly. The transition is gentle, giving them time to adjust. During all this, the mother is often pregnant again. Rats can conceive immediately after giving birth. She might be nursing one litter while carrying another, managing the demands of current young and preparing for the next batch simultaneously. If a pup dies, she removes it from the nest. This prevents disease spread and keeps the environment healthy for surviving pups. The behavior seems cold, but serves crucial protective function. Mother rats recognize their own pups by scent and will preferentially care for them over others. But they'll sometimes nurse orphaned pups if their own litter is small, showing flexibility when the cost isn't too high. The devotion peaks in those early vulnerable weeks. A mother rat will fight animals much larger than herself to protect her nest. The aggression is fierce, driven by hormones that make her temporarily fearless in defense of her young. Those early lessons in the nest teach pups a complex language they'll use throughout their lives. Rat communication extends far beyond the ultrasonic laughter we started with. They've developed sophisticated ways to share information, express emotion, and maintain social order. The vocalizations alone include at least 20 distinct types. Different calls for different situations. Alarm calls warn of danger. Mating calls attract partners. Distress calls signal pain or fear. Pups have specific calls that trigger maternal response immediately. Most of these sounds exist in frequencies humans can't hear. The communication happens constantly around us, invisible to our ears. Only specialized equipment reveals the ongoing conversations. But vocal communication is just one channel. Scent carries enormous information. Rats have scent glands that mark territory, signal reproductive status, and identify individuals. A rat can smell where another rat has been, how long ago, whether it was stressed or calm, male or female, familiar or stranger. They deposit scent deliberately. Urine marking isn't just waste elimination, it's communication, leaving messages for others to read. The patterns of marking tell stories about territory ownership, social status, and individual identity. Body language forms another layer. A rat arched on its toes with fur fluffed looks larger, signaling dominance or aggression. A rat lying flat with ears back signals submission. Standing on hind legs means alertness or curiosity. Each posture communicates intent. The teeth chattering sound that humans can hear signals extreme agitation or aggression. It's a warning, the rat equivalent of a growl. When you hear it, the rat is telling you to back off. Tail position matters too. A tail held high indicates confidence. A tucked tail suggests fear or submission. The tail moves independently during communication, emphasizing or modifying other signals. Touch communication happens constantly in social groups. Rats nose nudge to initiate interaction. They walk over each other, sharing physical space in ways that reinforce group bonds. The contact is communication, saying you're part of us, I recognize you, we're safe together. During conflicts, rats use ritualized aggression that rarely causes actual harm. Boxing on hind legs, pushing contests, chasing displays. The fights look dramatic, but usually end without injury. The communication is about establishing hierarchy, not causing damage. Rats also communicate about food sources. A rat that finds abundant food returns to the colony smelling of it. Others investigate the scent and follow the successful forager to the location. No complex instructions needed, just the right smell on the right rat. Young rats learn the communication system by immersion. They watch adults, try out calls, get corrected through social response. By adulthood, they're fluent in all channels, switching between vocalizations, scent, and body language seamlessly. Different rat populations develop slight variations in their calls, similar to regional dialects in human language. Rats from different areas sound subtly different to each other, though the basic meanings remain clear. In captivity, rats sometimes develop communication patterns with humans. They learn which sounds or behaviors get human attention. Some rats will make specific noises when they want food or interaction, training their owners as much as being trained. The communication system's complexity suggests rich social lives. You don't need 20 types of vocalizations unless you're having 20 types of interactions worth distinguishing. You don't develop sophisticated scent marking unless the details matter. Every moment in a rat colony involves communication. Information flowing through multiple channels simultaneously, creating a dense network of shared understanding that holds the social structure together and allows coordination. We're only beginning to comprehend. The communication systems we just explored exist in all rats, but how they're used differs dramatically depending on whether a rat lives in the wild or with humans. Domestication has changed rats in ways both obvious and subtle. Wild rats are nervous. They startle easily, avoid open spaces, trust nothing unfamiliar. This wariness keeps them alive in environments full of predators and poisons. Every shadow could be a cat. Every new food might be toxic. Caution is survival. Domestic rats, bred for generations in captivity, show remarkably different temperaments. They're curious rather than fearful. They approach new objects instead of avoiding them. They tolerate handling by humans, sometimes actively seeking it. The anxiety that defines wild rats has been largely bred out. This isn't just behavior, it's biology. Domestic rats have lower baseline stress hormones than wild rats. Their brains process threat differently. The same situation that sends a wild rat fleeing makes a domestic rat pause and investigate. Wild rats bite when cornered. It's their primary defense. They'll fight viciously if escape is impossible. Domestic rats rarely bite humans even when frightened. Generations of selective breeding favored rats that didn't attack handlers, gradually creating a population with different aggressive thresholds. The physical differences are visible too. Domestic rats come in colors that would never survive in nature. White rats, hooded rats, rats with unusual markings. These variations appear harmless in captivity, but would make wild survival nearly impossible. Predators spot them too easily. Wild rats maintain strict territories. They defend specific areas aggressively, marking boundaries and fighting intruders. Domestic rats are more flexible about space, tolerating closer proximity to others and adapting to smaller living areas without the same level of conflict. Intelligence remains similar, but wild rats apply it to different problems. Wild rats excel at navigating complex urban environments, finding hidden food sources, avoiding traps. Domestic rats excel at puzzle solving in controlled settings, learning tricks, bonding with humans. Different challenges, different applications of the same cognitive capacity. Lifespan differs significantly. Wild rats rarely live past 1 year. Predation, disease, poisoning, harsh conditions. Very few survive long enough to die of old age. Domestic rats, in good care, often reach 3 years or more. The same genetics, vastly different outcomes, based purely on environment. Wild rats reproduce constantly. Every opportunity to mate gets taken because death could come any time. Domestic rats in controlled populations breed less frantically, their reproductive urgency reduced by guaranteed safety and resources. Social structures vary too. Wild colonies develop rigid hierarchies, with clear dominant rats controlling resources. Domestic groups tend toward more relaxed social arrangements, though hierarchies still exist. The difference comes from resource reliability. Wild rats fight over scarce food. Domestic rats, no food appears regularly. Interestingly, domestic rats retain the ability to survive in the wild if released, though they struggle more than truly wild rats. Within a generation, their offspring show more wild-type behaviors. The domestication is real, but not irreversible. Wild rats avoid humans religiously. They've learned over thousands of generations that human presence usually means danger. They organize their entire lives around staying hidden from us. Domestic rats sometimes treat humans as colony members. They groom human hands, sleep on human laps, show excitement when familiar people approach. The relationship crosses species boundaries in ways wild rats would find incomprehensible. Both are still rats. Same biology, same needs, same basic nature. But the expression of that nature shifts dramatically based on whether they live in our world as hidden survivors or as companions we've shaped to coexist peacefully. Whether wild or domestic, all rats share one thing. They've lived alongside humans for thousands of years. This relationship, complicated and often hostile, has shaped both species in ways we rarely acknowledge. Rats likely began following humans when we invented agriculture. Grain stores attracted them. Our settlements provided shelter. We created the perfect habitat for rats accidentally, and they moved in permanently. Archaeological evidence shows rats and humans coexisting for at least 10,000 years. They've spread across the globe on our ships and in our cargo. Rats reached islands they could never have accessed naturally by hiding in human vessels. Everywhere humans went, rats followed or were carried, becoming one of the most widespread mammals on Earth. This proximity created conflict. Rats consume stored food, damage structures, and carry diseases. The Black Death, spread partly by rat fleas, killed millions. We've fought rats for millennia, developing endless methods to eliminate them. Yet, they persist. Their persistence comes from adaptability. Rats learned to avoid our traps, resist our poisons, exploit our waste. We've inadvertently trained them through survival pressure, making rats smarter and more resourceful with each generation. But the relationship isn't purely antagonistic. As we've explored tonight, rats contribute to medical research that saves lives. Pet rats bring companionship. Laboratory rats advance our understanding of biology, psychology, and disease. The relationship has facets beyond the simple pest narrative. Some cultures view rats more favorably. In parts of Asia, rats symbolize intelligence and resourcefulness. The Chinese zodiac honors the rat as clever and ambitious. Not every society sees rats solely as enemies. Looking at rats objectively, stripped of cultural conditioning, reveals creatures worthy of respect. They're intelligent problem solvers. They show empathy and form deep social bonds. They experience joy, play, music appreciation, and complex emotions. They remember kindness and build relationships across time. Their success as a species demonstrates remarkable resilience. Despite humanity's best efforts to eliminate them, rats thrive. They've turned our cities into their habitat, our infrastructure into their highways. They've proven themselves masters of adaptation. We share the world with them, whether we like it or not. Understanding rats means understanding our fellow inhabitants on this planet. Creatures who laugh in frequencies we can't hear, who dream about their days, who care for their young with devotion, who help trapped friends before eating chocolate. The rats around you right now, unseen in walls or sewers or laboratories, are living complete lives. They're navigating with whiskers, maintaining body temperature through their tails, communicating in complex languages, building comfortable nests, forming memories, experiencing the world through senses we can barely imagine. Tonight, we explored the hidden complexity of rats, their biology, their intelligence, their emotional depth. These aren't simple creatures. They're sophisticated mammals with rich inner lives and remarkable capabilities. If this journey into rat science brought you calm and wonder, please subscribe to Simple Science for Sleep so you don't miss tomorrow's exploration into another fascinating corner of the natural world. And leave a comment sharing what surprised you most about rats, or tell us what you'd like to learn about next. Let the knowledge settle. Let your mind rest on the image of rats laughing together in frequencies just beyond our hearing, finding joy in their small lives, thriving in the margins of our world. Sleep well.